Hey, Reluctant Preppers, you could have been watching this video the moment it came out.
By going to HealingYourself.Life and subscribing to our new sister channel, Healing Yourself. See you there.
Now, how I got involved with CBD is I developed the brain tumor. You can see it here.
Yes,
This was your brain tumor.
This is my brain
Wow.
tumor, and it narrowed out the skin bone here, right? The bone is decalcified, and I banged my head playing hockey with my grandson. And when I got rid of the hematoma, I said, "Gee, I got eggshell crackles in my brain." And I got an X-ray done, and MRI. This is the MRI showed a 10 centimeter or 4-inch tumor. Okay, it's a silent asymptomatic tumor. If I hadn't banged my head, it had grown another couple of inches. The neurologist in my office that would have said it's too late to operate. But he said it's okay to operate now, but we got to do it right away. In the meantime, I was so concerned about a tumor that size growing so rapidly.
Yes.
I found out about Dr. Brian Courtney, and he had a child who had a brain tumor. I'll show it to you. Here, 5-year-old girl,
Wow.
brain
Oh, my
tumor the
goodness.
size of 2 golf balls.
Oof.
Okay, and they were going to do an operation with a pediatric surgeon, and they had heard about cannabidiol. I don't know if it's through me or not because I talk a lot. But anyway, they said they want to try cannabidiol from hemp or marijuana. And of course, the surgeon said, "Okay, go ahead. I don't want anything to do with you. Do what you want." In 2 months, they went and got some cannabidiol from marijuana, 6 drops a day.
Okay.
2 months, the tumor is gone
Wow.
0.5%, 50%. In 4 months, it was gone. And 8 months, it's still gone.
Wow.
And this was 2011, which is 7 years ago.
Okay.
And this child is doing fine. This child was pretty well given a death sentence, even with the surgery, radiation,
Whoa.
and chemo.
Oh, my.
Wow.
She's still alive today. She's alive today.
Wow.
When I saw this, I thought, gee, how can a vegetable extract from marijuana or hemp
Yeah.
get rid of a tumor?
Okay.
And I thought this is a hoax. This is some kind of promotion. So I had the radiologist sent me these reports, and they come from a reputable university hospital or radiation department. And I came convinced, wow, this is a real thing. So I decided, what have I got to lose? It's a vegetable. It's been used in the Orient for thousands of years without basically no side effects. So I started taking it, and I didn't realize it because I had a frozen shoulder, and I was going to have it manipulated under anesthetic to get rid of the scarring.
Okay.
My grandson said, "Grandpa, you threw that ball overhand."
Oh.
And sure enough, my frozen shoulder was gone. And the only thing I could blame is the cannabidiol.
Ha!
That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah, and my rheumatologist who was going to set up the anesthetic manipulation, I said, "I won't need the surgery anymore or manipulation anymore." I said, "Because cannabidiol appears to get rid of my arthritis." He said, "Oh, no." He said, "That's a bunch of crap."
It's a bunch of
Anyway,
cheap, non-patented medicine.
That's right. So I was visiting my neurosurgeon after my surgery, and he came by, and I said, "Look at this." He couldn't believe it.
Wow.
God
So I
gracious.
said, "Yes, I'll cancel your manipulative
Wow.
surgery now." So anyway, I got interested in cannabidiol, and before long, I was talking to a friend who had leukemia, and he had been told he only had 2 months to live. This was about 4 years ago, to almost to the day. He said, "Ernie, I'm going to be dead in 2 months. I hear you're taking cannabidiol, and it shrinks tumors." I said, "What have you got?" He said, "I got this mild dysplastic anemia, and I'm taking 2 units of blood every 9 days and a unit of platelets every 12 days.
Wow.
And my life expectancy is 2 months or 3 months at the most, absolute most." I said, "Look, you got nothing to lose.
Right.
I'm taking cannabidiol from hemp. You got nothing to lose. Okay, there's no side effects. Go ahead and take it." He phoned me 2 months later, said, "Ernie, my blood transfusions went from 2 to 1, and every time, every few days, I was expending my 9 days to monthly and less and less and less." And I just spoke to him this morning, and he said, "Ernie, I haven't had a blood transfusion for 200 days and no platelets for 1,000 days."
Whoa.
Wow.
That's amazing.
And he says, "I'm alive because of cannabidiol."
Okay.
And I had another fellow who developed leukemia, leukemic dysplastic anemia, and lymphoma, malignant lymphoma. And I'm trying to talk him into talking to it. And he has saved a lot of lives that way by talking to different patients who developed this problem.
Okay.
And I got about 12 people who had arthritis, taking narcotics
Yes.
and anti-inflammatories and antispasmodics.
Steroids. Yeah.
Now they're just taking cannabidiol from hemp.
Wow.
That's all they're taking.
That's
And I had one lady who was severely arthritic. I said, well, start the cannabidiol. And she said, Ernie, within half an hour, my pains are gone, and I stopped taking all my narcotics and anti-inflammatories. And then I was giving a talk at the hospital for diabetes, and she said, Ernie, I got to tell you something else. He says, in 2 weeks, my blood sugars were double figures. And he said, for the first time in all these years, I couldn't control it. It's now down to single figures. And yesterday morning, she said her blood sugar was down to 4.1. I said, that you're getting down. You're going to have to start reducing your insulin. And she said she's been thinking about that. Because she's a nurse from the hospital.
Okay.
So it's got a miraculous compound that modern medicine's got to open their eyes for. And they are starting to open their eyes now.
And just to clarify for people who might have an automatic instinctive reaction against something that comes from hemp or cannabis, cannabidiol is not hallucinogenic, right? It's not psychoactive.
There's no TCH in there.
Yeah. Right. This is a graph that shows 16 pluses for cannabidiol.
Okay.
All pluses. Nausea, vomiting, seizures, convulsions, antispasmodic, insomniac, you name it. It's got 16 pluses.
Oh.
THC has got 3 pluses. Okay?
Okay.
So, I'm sorry, this is it here, THC here. You only got 3 pluses: antispasmodic, anti-tumor effect, anti-nausea, and vomiting.
Okay.
But cannabidiol is in a class all by
look at
itself.
that. That's amazing.
Yeah. And therefore, Dr. Sappy's the one that did the research for me, and she's still working on the THC and the CBD on the live spirochetes.
Okay.
Dr. Pat McGeer is a classmate from medical school, and he's a member of my research board. And he took the brains of people who had died with a diagnosis of Alzheimer's, and he grew live spirochetes from the brain of these 3 people that died.
Wow.
Many days after they were having a postmortem done, the biopsy grew live spirochetes.
Oh, no.
He was able to grow them in the test tube and transfer them into kill neurological cells and human cells by invading them with these spirochetes. So it shows you how viability is there, even though these came from dead people.
Uh-huh.
And he's a head of research at the UBC Medical School, and from what I gather, he hasn't got a license now either.
Oh my gosh!
And beyond just that, the high viability and strength of the bacteria, it sounds like you're saying that these people were pronounced dead from what disease?
Alzheimer's.
Alzheimer's.
So Alzheimer's, but
other people have died from other causes.
Yeah.
There's a Dr. Alan McDonald in I think he's in New York. He's done biopsies on these people who had their frozen tissue of brain, and he found spirochetes, not live, but he was able to identify proteins, KDA proteins of Lyme disease.
So it seems like, what it sounds like is that many people are dying of either Alzheimer's or perhaps MS or being some we've heard diagnosed with dementia, but really what they have is Lyme, and this is becoming epidemic problem, and people are dying from Lyme disease, but they're being told, no, your loved one died of Alzheimer's.
But not all Alzheimer's are Lyme.
Okay.
I don't know. We got to work out the percentage. Yeah. And not all MS cases are Lyme.
Right.
We don't know, but there's a high percentage.
Okay.
Of them.
Wow.
That's all I can say.
Yes.
We don't know exact figures.
Yeah.
This is the graph. Two normal live spirochetes. The blue is live spirochetes. This is 1 millimole of cannabidiol, 5 millimoles, and 10 millimoles of cannabidiol. Look at the difference. I was so happy. I cried when I saw that. Yeah. That's an antibiotic effect. Mm-hmm. And to compare it, here is doxycycline at 15 millimoles per cc. Okay. This, if we had gone down to 15 millimoles of the CBD, it would have surpassed even the antibiotic of doxycycline. Okay. And these 3 are DMSO anti-inflammatories, just to show that it doesn't have an anti-inflammatory or antibiotic effect like this, because it didn't show any antiseptic or antibiotic properties from a DMSO. It was just put in as a standard.
And in contrast to the doxycycline, which would have a lot of side effects from wiping out your natural healthy intestinal flora, the CBD, you said it has no side effects.
No, I can't say that. CBD, if it kills the Lyme spirochetes in large numbers, can cause a Herx reaction.
Okay, sure. That's just collateral.
So therefore, I warn people, if they're really symptomatic and you're going to start with cannabidiol, start at a lower dose so you don't get the severe Herx reaction.
Okay, all right. Okay. But will it not kill your good bacteria in your gut, like the doxycycline will kill the good bacteria? Okay,
with any antibiotic, in practice, I've always said any antibiotic, short or long, you've got to take biofilm, not biofilm, but probiotic or something that will replace the normal bacteria, whether it's your yogurt or milk or ice cream. It doesn't matter, as long as you keep replacing it. Whether it's antibiotic or even with CBD, there is a killing effect. So you could avoid the overgrowth of a Clostridium difficile germ for one.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, when I got that report, I was so happy with the next report that I said, look, let's see if it'll kill the biofilm. So here, these are 3 standards. Live blue, green is biofilm. Here, doxycycline was added on here. And look at what it did to the live spirochete. It dropped it down to 60%.
Of the live spirochete, but not so effective against the biofilm form.
Very, very minimal. Okay. And these 2 other tests, and here, this is doxycycline. This is 10 millimoles of cannabidiol, and it killed 100% of the spirochetes and 100% of the spirochete biofilm.
In the biofilm form.
So this made me even happier to know that the antibiotic effect is there.
Okay.
Not just for the spirochete, but for the biofilm.
Okay.
Which is the cause of the survival form.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah. Okay. And this is live spirochetes and biofilm. This is with doxycycline. It killed both a little bit. 1 millimole of cannabidiol killed 80 to 90%. CBD, 10 millimoles killed it 100%. This is the total kill.
Wow.
And here, CBD 1 millimole with doxycycline killed the combination. So you can use the combination if the single doesn't work.
Okay.
That's what I recommend. The CBD, if that doesn't work, combine it with doxycycline.
Okay.
So that's pretty well what I'm talking about on this program.
Yeah, that seems very, very successful.
Can we talk about availability and cost of the CBD and the typical adult dosage?
Well, the dosage varies from place to place, and also on the person, the weight, the height, the age. The elderly people can't take some of these because their kidney and livers are not functioning. So you've got to be very careful about the whole status of the patient.
Okay.
And you could use your judgment too, whether it's initial, like first stage Lyme disease is when it's right after the bite. You don't need as much as when it goes into the second stage or the third stage, which is a neurological finding.
Yeah.
So if you had some questions, I'm quite willing to answer.
That'd be great.
There's one question.
I'm going to shrink it down a bit.
That's fine.
Sure.
In fact, if you click your little...
that's... Which one? Get rid of this one here.
It actually will be recording your camera regardless.
Yeah, so it's no problem, however you want to deal with that.
I don't want it that big.
No.
How do I shrink it down?
He wants to know how to shrink it down. I think there's a...
Okay, that's not bad right now.
Okay.
So we have a viewer's questions that were submitted. One of them from a viewer named Buddy Time says, what are your thoughts on the Department of Health and Human Services having the patient on CBD oil for medical purposes, but still listing cannabis as a class 1 narcotic with no medical purposes? So I think they're pointing out basically contradiction between the legal status or the official status of CBD versus cannabis from the Health and Human Services?
Well, hemp cannabidiol is legal in 50 American states, and not every province in Canada, but it is more accepted. And in British Columbia, you can get hemp cannabidiol without a prescription or a government-authorized number. And the states, 50, I know the 50 American states have it, but they can't cross borders with it.
Okay, and if
I think that
so, in any 50 states or in Canada, it sounds like people can go into like a health food store or natural food store and purchase CBD oil, cannabidiol from hemp. But what would be an appropriate dose for them to? You mentioned start small and work your way up if you believe that you're dealing with Lyme.
Yeah. Well, again, if the person's got a severe load of spirochetes, then you've got to start off low.
What's low?
I would say 5 milligrams twice a day, work it up to 10, 15, 20 slowly. Otherwise, people get a severe Herx reaction, and they get very discouraged. So especially if there's a lot of even the hemp CBD has got THC in it.
Oh.
So therefore, some people are very sensitive to the low THC. You got to start even at a lower dose.
So if
you gotta,
the ones that we've seen available commercially here over the counter say THC free, there's no THC in there.
Yeah, but a lot of the hemp products do have a trace of it, or very low.
Okay.
Anyway.
Okay. And then what do you work your way up to? You mentioned up to, is it 25 milligrams per day?
Well, again, you go by the response. If the response is gradual and good, then you could stop it if the patient is getting symptomatic improvement. It becomes an anecdotal test that you have to do on every individual.
Okay.
There's two questions here that involve carbon-60, and I don't know if your research includes looking into that. That one question, My Happy Sushi says, will carbon-60 work for Lyme disease? Another one, Christian Rivera says, we'd like to get your thoughts about using CBD in conjunction with C60.
Well, I'm afraid I can't give you an experience there. My experience has been with the hemp cannabidiol only, because it's hard to get the THC legally for even for experimentation. And I applied around the world for different bacteriologists to work with me, and the only place I got the support was Dr. Eva Sappi at New Haven University. Because once you say cannabidiol, that comes from marijuana. Most universities won't have anything to do with it, but they're slowly opening their eyes, slowly. And in Canada, in October the 17th, it's going to be decriminalized. And then I think the university board will open their eyes and say, hey, there's a lot of good going on with it. We got to get behind it and support it. But right now, it's still hard to get them to get involved. So therefore, there's a difference between hemp cannabidiol and marijuana cannabidiol.
Okay.
One is legal, other one is hopefully becoming legal.
Okay.
We have a very prolific subscriber who submitted 5 questions. We'll see if we can hit these briefly with you. Rich H. asks, the first question is regarding recently discovered neurotoxin in fertile female ticks. Does any of your research include anything about neurotoxins carried by female ticks?
I'm afraid I can't really make any comment on that. Okay. I know there's some research being done. That's all I can say.
Okay. Their second question involves having some lingering. They were bitten by 2 different ticks with bullseye rashes over 2 years, and having received some treatment, but for excruciating forehead and eyebrow pain. 2 years later, still having some minor pain and sensation issues. And what should I expect? What can be done about this other than symptomatic support? Just learn to live with it? ?
Well, I'm against narcotics, and I think the CBD has such an analgesic effect that it could be the answer to addiction problems, codeine addiction, and the person should try the CBD from hemp.
Okay.
And another question is about viruses. What viruses have been so far identified within the scope of Lyme disease? And I know you mentioned co-infections, and in one of your charts that you showed up, it said specifically Borrelia burgdorferi, which is the main spirochete bacteria associated with Lyme disease. But what about other co-infections? Are there virus co-infections as well?
Well, first of all, I should mention that there's 2 other Lyme spirochetes called Afzeli and Garini, And now they're combining those three with Burley-Burgdorferi in the testing now. In Canada and States, I think, too. They're combining the three, and in Europe as well.
Okay.
Now, the only experience I had with viruses is I had some of the HIV patients who were on therapy and the study of the toxic cells and everything like that. And one person developed Lyme disease as well as HIV.
Wow.
And doing the antibiotics for treatment with regular antibiotics, the killer cells diminished to the point where the lab technician said to me, Ernie, you're treating this patient for Lyme disease. The frequency of testing has become less and less because he's producing less and less. So there is an antiviral effect on the HIV virus,
Okay.
which so far we don't know how extensive it is. It might be the answer to Lyme disease, but or maybe in conjunction with something else. But it definitely did prolong the intervals that the blood tests were being done, because the production of the killer cells or bad cells, white cells, were becoming diminished. But that's still too early for me to say that. That's all I can say.
Okay.
It was being diminished, and that the lab technician told me it was definitely diminishing the count.
Okay. I think the other question they had was the pathophysiological reason they developed moderate psoriasis and something arthritis during Lyme disease. It begins with a P. I don't know what the P stands
Maybe that
for.
means psoriatic or...
Oh, maybe psoriatic.
Yeah, psoriatic rash. It's a very thickening of the skin.
Oh,
it's a rash.
okay.
But that's in late stages Lyme disease.
Oh,
But some people taking the cannabidiol have improved.
they have. Okay.
They have, yeah.
Okay. And she was, or he was wondering. I'm sorry. Rich was wondering why would that happen with Lyme disease?
Specifically, what's the reason, the pathophysiological reason for developing those types of symptoms related to Lyme disease?
Yeah.
You mean you want to know why you're getting the symptoms?
Yeah. Why would he be getting?
Specifically
Why
the
would
psoriasis
yeah.
and
Why
the
the
arthritis.
psoriasis and the arthritis? Why? What? How does that happen?
Well, the spirochete attacks every organ in the body without exception.
Okay.
And the joint surface is no exception.
Okay.
And it's got a funny migrating, alternating spots too. Typically, regular arthritis is a standard knee or arm or shoulder. But with Lyme disease, it migrates from place to place. And it could be something to do with a cycle of the clusters that may be there maturing at a different stage. And therefore it attacks one organ for a while, and then it matures with another spot with the high growth rate from these cystic forms causing another. It's a migrating arthritis, and that's my way of explaining it. That's the only way I can explain it.
That's a great explanation. Yeah. And then is it like there are ethical veterinary vaccines for Lyme disease now available for domestic animals? And he's wondering, and I think we touched a little bit about it being such available for humans, of Lyme. It sounds like you say it is in development for the Lyme vaccine. Do you know when that might be coming out for humans?
Well, right now, the latest report was that so far there has been no complication.
Okay.
As you know, the severe arthritis was the cause of Lymerix, but so far they haven't reported anything.
Okay.
I'm still keeping my fingers crossed, because immunological reactions can be a delayed reaction. We don't know.
Sure.
So before I would say to everybody, go for it.
Yeah.
I would say wait a little longer to see if these studies verify the fact that it is safe.
Yeah.
That's a big thing.
Yeah, huge.
As I say, I turned it down because I was afraid of the autoimmune reaction, and that's what happened.
So,
and whether it's going to happen, I don't know.
Okay. So, kind of in wrapping up this first episode with you, you've talked about the promise of CBD oil from hemp as a cannabidiol, and CBD oil sounds like it's the same thing. Is there different concentrations people need to be aware of when they purchase CBD oil? Do they have to look very carefully for how much of that is the active cannabidiol active ingredient or portion?
Well, in Canada, when they sell a product, they're supposed to dictate on a slip of paper the exact content of the CBD and the exact content of the THC. This is compulsory. I don't know what the regulations are in the States.
So the dosing that you were describing earlier, when people should start with just a few milligrams and work their way up potentially as high as 25 milligrams per day for adults as they can tolerate it symptomatically, are you describing the active ingredient or the actual, just the bulk oil itself that they would purchase at the health food store?
Well, you have to get the strength and the percentage of it.
Okay.
Or in milligrams or percentage.
Okay.
Yeah, we've had a hard time.
Then if it's really, really high, then you don't want to start too high because you get a Herx reaction.
Sure.
Which was disappointing.
So you're
in many
trying
people.
to measure how much, regardless of how much of the oil you have to take, it's based on the strength of it to get the number of milligrams of cannabidiol specifically that you described. Okay.
Right. Start low and
Gotcha.
then work it up slowly. That's what I tell everybody.
Yeah, and I think some of the bottles, we actually have some here at home, and some give a good explanation of what it is. The more expensive one does that. That was like $90 for a small bottle.
It gives the exact concentration.
It gives the exact concentration.
cannabidiol.
The other one, there was a bigger one, did not give the exact
It just
concentration.
said CBD rich.
Yeah, CBD rich is all it said.
Yeah, no,
So
Well, as I say, you couldn't get a bad Herx reaction if it's too strong.
Okay.
So go symptomatic and trust your body. What about people who want to look for a doctor who thinks like you? Most doctors don't. So what are your suggestions on how people can find a Lyme literate MD who's willing to look at natural approaches and low risk approaches such as you are?
Well, most of the ILADS people are experienced in antibiotics, like I was too, until my recent finding out from patients who were using smoking it and using the paste. And and the research done that you've seen that convinces me there's a place for the Lyme treatment with cannabidiol.
Yeah. So ILADS that you mentioned there is the Institute for Lyme and Associated Diseases.
They will give you the doctors who are Lyme literate.
They have a reference.
But
okay, great.
Very, very few are associating themselves with the CBD yet.
Okay.
But I'm available anytime.
Well, okay,
I talk to anybody around the world.
Wow.
I'll give them directions, and I can direct them to the people that I've trained,
That's wonderful.
that I know of, or I've heard of others too now. They're slowly opening up more and more. But yet, last month, this doctor from Seattle, he said he's no longer practicing.
Wow.
So it's still going on.
Well, we will let you give us the exact contact information you want people to use for reaching out to you. We'll include it in the description of this video so that people can contact you who want to reach out for more information.
Well, they could phone me at my number.
Okay.
Very good.
Because it varies. Because some people will say they'll treat it for a while, and then all of a sudden they stop because their peers are harassing them.
Oh my
Sure.
gosh.
So it varies. So you could phone one guy and be all of a sudden say, no, I'm not doing it anymore.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, we've been speaking with Dr. Ernie Murakami. He is a Associate Professor Emeritus at UBC Medical Center with degrees in Bacteriology and Immunology from UBC Medical Center. He is a Lyme disease expert, having treated thousands of patients. I believe it's over 8,000 patients. Is that right, Dr. Murakami?
Well, I treated 3,000 directly until I got my license taken away.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I'm over getting close to 15,000 that I've helped people directly, directed them to doctors, and given education on symptoms of the different diseases, because there's symptoms for babesiosis and Bartonella and ehrlichiosis, and the viruses, they all have specific symptoms that are different, and the treatment is different too. So my knowledge of having a degree in bacteriology and immunology really advanced me ahead of a lot of people who were really way behind. In fact, my first group of people I talked to, they didn't know what I was talking about when I said cysts and survival forms, Herx reactions, co-infections. They didn't know what I was talking about.
Are there any specific books or links online for online information that you think would be helpful to people who want to do some research on their own?
Well, you could start by looking at YouTube. I've got a video on there, and it's all got a radio conversation, which you probably are familiar with. And I got a tick removal section called Murakami Tick Removal on there as well.
Okay, great.
So we'll include links. I noticed on your presentation you listed your website address in there, so we'll make sure that that's included in the description as well. So
Ernie Murakami at Hotmail is easy to remember.
Very good.
Okay, great.
All right. Well, Dr. Murakami, thank you so much for joining us on HealingYourself.Life.
Yeah, we really appreciate your time.
Thank you. All I want to do is educate the public, and you got a widespread too. And that's going to really help, I know.
Great. Well, I hope you're ready for a lot of phone calls. You're probably going to get a lot from people who are passionately interested in this as you are. So thank you for being there for so many people.
No, I'm as I say, I decided instead of suing, I'm going to teach.
Excellent.
That's just
Excellent.
Thank you.
Slowly winning the battle.
Great.
Thank you,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much for
Okay,
joining
and
us.
thank you for the work you're doing too.
Thank
bet.
you.
It doesn't take one person; it takes a teamwork. To do
Great.
It really
Thank
does.
you.
it. Okay.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay.
Bye
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Does your family ever get exasperated with you for stockpiling such things as paper towels, bottled water, or toilet tissue? Well, they certainly can't object to you stockpiling money. Silver, the only money recognized by the U.S. Constitution. And your first 10-ounce bar of pure silver can be had at spot price with no premium by going to sdbullion.com/rp. And when you buy it that way, you'll be supporting Reluctant Preppers as well by going to sdbullion.com/rp. Thanks.
This is a quick update to thank you for building our number of patrons to 70 and growing on patreon.com/reluctantpreppers.
Soon, when we reach 100 active patrons, we're going to start sending out a 1-ounce U.S. Silver Eagle each and every month to one active subscriber, so you don't want to miss out on that.
Please help us grow by subscribing today at patreon.com/reluctantpreppers.